A 10-day-old Doberman puppy was left in a soggy cardboard box, too weak to even cry loud enough for help. Everyone thought he would die within hours. But when a stranger heard his faint whimper and acted, what happened next stunned everyone, and proved miracles still happen. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The alley was silent except for the hum of distant traffic and the rustle of wind pushing litter across the cracked pavement. In the shadows, a small cardboard box sat forgotten, its edges damp from the cold night air. Inside, curled tightly against the soggy cardboard, was a newborn Doberman puppy, no more than 10 days old. His tiny body trembled with every shallow breath. His eyes were still sealed shut, his paws weak and unsteady, too fragile to even lift his head. A faint whimper escaped his throat, desperate and uncertain, yet no one came. The world had already turned its back on him. Someone had left him there, abandoned to the night, as if his life meant nothing. The box provided no warmth, no comfort, only a cruel reminder of rejection. The puppy squirmed weakly, searching for a mother who wasn't there, for a heartbeat that had vanished. The night grew colder, and with every moment that passed, his chances of survival faded like the last glow of twilight. The faint cry barely rose above the sound of passing cars, but to Sarah, walking home from work, it was enough to make her pause. She frowned, turning her head toward the alley, unsure if she had imagined it. Then it came again, a thin, broken whimper that pierced the night. Guided by instinct, she followed the sound until her eyes caught the shape of a box against the wall. She knelt down, her heart tightening as she pulled back the flap. Inside, the sight nearly broke her, an impossibly small Doberman puppy, wet, trembling, and far too still. His chest rose unevenly, as though each breath was a fight he was losing. Sarah reached in with trembling hands, cradling the fragile body against her chest. "Oh no, you poor baby," she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. The puppy's head sagged into her palm, his whimpers softening as he felt warmth for the first time that night. In that instant, Sarah knew, if she didn't act now, he wouldn't make it until morning. Sarah hurried home, clutching the tiny bundle close to her chest. The puppy's body was icy, his breaths so shallow she could barely feel them against her skin. Fear knotted in her stomach. He was far too young to be alone. Without his mother's milk, without warmth, his chances were almost none. She laid him gently on a blanket, wrapping another around him before rushing to heat a water bottle. Carefully, she placed it beside him, hoping to mimic the warmth of a mother he no longer had. His whimpers quieted, but his frailty terrified her. Sarah grabbed a dropper, filling it with warm formula she had kept for emergencies. Her hands shook as she guided the drop to his tiny mouth. At first, nothing. Then, weakly, the puppy licked, swallowing just enough to give her a spark of hope. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she whispered, "Fight, little one. Please fight." That night, sleep never came. Every hour, Sarah checked his breathing, fed him drop by drop, determined that this abandoned soul would not slip away unnoticed. Morning light crept through the curtains, painting the room in soft gold. Sarah sat slumped on the couch, exhaustion heavy in her body, but her eyes never left the tiny figure bundled in blankets. For hours, she had fed, warmed, and prayed over the fragile Doberman. Then it happened, a twitch. The puppy's paw shifted ever so slightly, brushing against the fabric. Sarah straightened, her heart leaping. She leaned closer, holding her breath. A faint squeak followed, weak but real, and her chest filled with relief. He was responding. She stroked his head gently, whispering encouragement. "That's it, sweetheart, keep fighting." His sealed eyelids fluttered as if he could sense her presence. The rhythm of his breathing grew steadier, less ragged than before. Sarah quickly prepared another dropper of warm milk. This time, when she touched it to his lips, he sucked greedily, his tiny body trembling with effort. It wasn't much, but it was enough to spark hope. For the first time since she found him, Sarah allowed herself to believe this little life might actually have a chance. The days that followed were a mixture of hope and heartbreak. Some mornings, The puppy greeted Sarah's gentle touch with faint whimpers and eager gulps from the dropper. But other nights, his body grew frighteningly still, his breathing shallow, leaving Sarah terrified that he wouldn't survive until dawn. One evening, as she prepared his formula, he suddenly refused to eat. His head turned weakly away, his tiny body shivering. Panic surged through her chest. She wrapped him in a blanket, holding him close, whispering, "Please don't give up on me now." Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to let him face the darkness alone. Exhaustion weighed heavily on Sarah. Her friends told her it might be kinder to let nature take its course, but she shook her head every time. She had found him abandoned, discarded like he didn't matter. To her, he mattered more than anything. Even in his weakest moments, Sarah believed love could keep him alive. And so, she fought on, matching every struggle with unwavering devotion. On the fifth night, Sarah sat cross-legged on the floor, rocking the puppy gently in her hands. His breathing had steadied, but she still feared the night would steal him away. She set down the bottle, brushing his tiny head, when suddenly his body shifted with surprising strength. His eyelids, sealed tight since birth, began to part. Two cloudy, uncertain eyes blinked up at her, fragile yet determined. Sarah gasped, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. "You can see me," she whispered, her voice breaking. For the first time, the puppy locked onto her presence, his gaze clumsy but filled with life. Moments later, he let out a stronger whimper, then struggled onto his wobbly legs. His paws slipped, but he pushed again, inching forward before collapsing against her palm. Sarah's heart swelled. He wasn't just surviving, he was fighting. She pulled him close, tears spilling freely. "That's it, baby. Keep going." The tiny heartbeat against her chest pulsed stronger than ever before. It was a breakthrough, a miracle she had prayed for, and it felt like the tide had finally turned. Weeks passed, and the frail bundle Sarah once carried home in her arms was no longer the same. The Doberman puppy's legs grew sturdier, his eyes brighter, his cries now replaced with playful barks that filled the house. Every corner became his playground. He chased shadows, tumbled over cushions, and wagged his tail with endless joy. Sarah watched in awe as he devoured his meals eagerly, no longer needing a dropper, but lapping from his own bowl. His once skeletal frame now held the beginnings of sleek muscle, his coat shining under the sunlight. The puppy, who had been too weak to lift his head, now bounded toward her every time she entered the room, his little body crashing into her legs with love. One afternoon, as Sarah sat on the porch, he climbed onto her lap and licked her cheek. She laughed through tears, hugging him tightly. "Look at you," she whispered, her heart full. "From a dying pup in a box to my little warrior." His transformation was nothing short of remarkable, a living proof of resilience, love, and second chances. Months later, the Doberman puppy, once abandoned to die, ran across the yard with boundless energy. His sleek coat glistened in the sun, his ears perked, and his bark rang strong and confident. Sarah stood at the door, watching with pride as he chased after a ball, his spirit unrecognizable from the fragile creature she had once lifted from a damp cardboard box. When he tired, he trotted back and leaned against her legs, gazing up. With loyal eyes, Sarah knelt down, cupping his face in her hands. "You were supposed to be gone before you had a chance to live," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But you proved everyone wrong." The puppy wagged his tail, pressing his nose into her palm as if he understood. In that moment, Sarah realized this journey wasn't just about saving a life. It was about discovering the strength of love, hope, and resilience.